I think it has a huge mass appeal for two reasons. One, it attracts the families all across the board. From a kid could be 2 years old to the grandma that's watching the kid that's in her 60s or 70s.
Just seeing how he took to all this was really, really amazing. And he's acting. I mean, he's really tapping into his emotions. He understands who the character is.
So it's an education. I'm learning on the job.
I mean, listen, it's Space Jam. When I was 12 years old, I needed inspiration where I was growing up. Michael Jordan was one of those people who gave me inspiration, along with my mother and some musicians, some other athletes, some other people, predominant people in my community. But when I think back to just watching Space Jam and always having a love for Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes, and then you add on the fact that Michael Jordan, one of my favorite, inspirations growing up, I felt like it was a made match in heaven for myself. So I was excited from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you don't always leave a movie set, a TV set, you don't always leave any experience in a film feeling like you're leaving behind people that you're gonna miss, Sometimes it's a gig and you get through it and you're glad that we all did it and everybody kind of goes their separate ways. But this one, there was a real spirit of togetherness, and we were very much, even with the background artists, who were very necessary and incredibly important to our making this whole thing work. And they were very appreciative to be there, and they were all really felt like they were in it too, and I made very sure that we would thank them every day, and LeBron was right there with me. We would always say thank you. We'd always, tell them how important they were and how much we appreciated them, and it was just came back. And so when, on the last day that I stayed around until, very, very late, just hanging out, because you kind of feel like, oh, I'm gonna miss this crew. These people are special, and this was a lot of fun. So it's nice when a theme, that's in a film kind of bleeds through and crosses over into real life, and we kind of feel that way too. So yeah, those themes are important: being seen, being recognized, being understood, being valued. Everything that we all want, that Al-G Rhythm wants at whatever age he is, which he says he's 15, just like CJ is, and a kid or the greatest basketball player in the world. Everybody's trying to, be seen, be recognized, be valued.
I think, doing Space Jam 2, for this generation, reintroduces to children of today, these great Warner Brothers characters that I grew up on, that, my parents grew up on, that are just funny characters. And everybody loves, physical comedy from the time that we are little children, until adults. The physical comedy that the Looney Tune characters provide is classic. It always works, and they're great characters, in and of themselves. I mean, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Yosemite Sam and Foghorn Leghorn. I mean, these are all these great iconic characters, and mix them with the, arguably one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball, and LeBron James, is a great way to, bring it into the modern era. And what I like about this story is that, yeah, I mean, the first one was Space Jam, but this is more than Space Jam. This is like Cyberspace Jam, because these are, we're such in a era where, everything is digital, electronic, and on the web, and, and about video games and virtual reality. And so, our characters, LeBron James and his son, are going into a video game. And so, that's a great way to reintroduce the Looney Tunes and to bring it to the modern era with, arguably one of the greatest basketball players that have ever played in LeBron James.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The original film is, it has such a special place in my heart because I saw it very young. I can't even remember how old I was when I first saw it, but I was blown away by it, and it became a staple in our house. And I could basically say that I grew up on it. I loved it so much. Yeah. Yeah, I still think about it every now and then.
I've spoke to him when I first agreed to be a part of it. We met, and you know, he chimed in on FaceTime, and we talked a little bit, and he just shared, you know, why he was interested in me being in the role that I'm in. And I just really appreciated the fact that he, you know, it wasn't surface level. You know, they didn't just say, all right, give us some NBA players and some WNBA players, and let's throw this movie together. He knew my story, and he knew, you know, some of my interests outside of being a basketball player, and they put that into my role in this movie. So any type of person that takes the time to do that and do those things and make it count, those are the kind of people that I'm a fan of. So, you know, I learned that about him right from the jump, and since then he's been cool, you know, a great guy.
I'm trying to get as many people as I can to watch the original first, because I realize now as we're shooting, you know, it seems that the people that are really going to be into this movie are going to be my age. Because Space Jam was a great movie when I was younger, but we want to be able to get the younger generations to understand the iconic nature of Space Jam and kind of use those parallels to understand the Space Jam 2 movie.
You know, we were just talking about it out back with NECA and Dame, and we were talking about how when you're a little kid, how a movie like that can really shape, you know, what you want to be in the future. And, you know, the one thing that I loved about the first Space Jam was the diversity of different players, sizes and shapes. And
you know, LeBron James is, you know, he's really like an entertainment icon, you know, when it comes to what he's done for the sport of basketball, but also, you know, what he's just done for the idea of what being a professional athlete is, and how somebody like that can impact the community. You know, what he's meant as a representation of what a working family man is in this era, you know. So it was also really exciting for us to be involved with LeBron, and then, you know, myself had a relationship with the studio at Warner Brothers. And been a lifelong Looney Tunes fan as well. So, you know, it all made sense for us to collaborate on this thing. It's been really special.
And my work on Space Jam 2, I mean, I think I have to be honest, it started 25 years ago when I was a little kid watching Space Jam in theaters, having my mind blown. Because I love the Looney Tunes and I love Michael Jordan. And I used to love watching the Looney Tunes, I used to love watching Michael Jordan, but the fact that I could watch the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan at the same time. So, you know, right then and there I realized that I had to do something to, you know, work on a Space Jam sequel. So I spent 25 years, little by little, doing everything I could to make that happen, and my plan paid off because I got to work on Space Jam 2. You know, when I got the opportunity to be a part of the team that brought Space Jam: A New Legacy to life, it was genuinely a dream come true.
At the beginning, we tried to have a lot of meetings where we talked out, you know, a lot of what we would be doing, and so to make it clear what everybody's needs were. And that doesn't mean that it always went, you know, without a hitch, but I think it's a big part of it is the idea that that people really were trying to accommodate each other. So they, you know, people say what they want, and then the other people honestly and straightforwardly say, you know, what they can do and what they can't do, and there's a sense of like, okay, we can make that work. And then the attempt and the trying to make it work. So that's what's really been great about it, is that we don't have that one department that just, you know, it's my way or the highway. Everybody seems to be helping each other.
Yeah, for me, I like to start with whatever I can get to the heart of first, or the emotion of first. Like, I like to watch the film and then find the spot that I can, that I feel most moved by emotionally, because that's usually easiest for me to find a way to write something for that. And so I'll watch the film a few times, and then once I find a moment, like for this, it was really about LeBron and Dom's connection and this father and son theme that we wanted to establish. And so for me, it was watching the film and finding a scene where I could really get into their relationship and into a moment that I was really pulled emotionally by their chemistry and dynamic, and then writing for that, and then starting to use that theme as almost like breadcrumbs essentially, but like, you know, starting to piece that theme throughout the rest of the film. And then once we have that, it's a little bit easier to kind of move from there. So really just trying to find the strongest emotional moments that we can start with.
Don Cheadle's Al-G was mostly made by Don Cheadle, who's amazing. But there was a very collaborative spirit behind it. Like we would, in visual effects, come up with ideas about how he might interface with his environment. You know, like maybe the way he can work with the HUD, right? A heads-up display and kind of interface and kind of create things in his world. And so we would generate some previs, and then Malcolm and I would maybe show it to Don, and he'd be like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And he's not only a great actor, but he's also has a real knack for kind of physical improvisation. So like there's this great shot in the movie where Dom, LeBron's son in the film, is being kind of powered up, right? He's kind of getting all these new kind of player abilities. And so Don Cheadle goes out there and he kind of mimes, you know, bringing up this HUD. And then he just starts going nuts. He's like pushing all these buttons and kind of twisting all these knobs and swiping things around. And it was great and super just kind of like playful and whimsical. And it really gave you a sense that he was so kind of in control of this world. He's kind of like the wizard in this space. And that all of this kind of this extra visualization of things is almost beside the point, you know, and so he could treat it very kind of casually. So that was great for us, and so that inspired us to design something that really supported that. So we created this HUD that had just millions of little switches and knobs and stuff that he could kind of play with. So anyway, that kind of back and forth, I think, really helped the character and a lot of the designs that worked around him.
I think the original Space Jam was, as a movie, had an impact on me as seeing Michael Jordan star in that movie and seeing an athlete at the caliber Michael was expand and do even more than just be an awesome basketball player, but look to become a movie star. So I think the impact that that movie has had on my career is unexplainable. It really is part of the DNA of why LeBron and I have thought the way we thought. That is one of the key moments and stamps in time that proved to us, even as kids, unconsciously knowing that an athlete is capable of doing many more things.
Yeah, sure. We had definitely wanted to make it fun for the Looney Tunes, you know, a little bit of callbacks to like the classic sounds that, you know, we grew up on hearing in the Looney Tunes cartoons. But a lot of the sounds in the movie are definitely fresher and, you know, bringing them into, you know, current day and in the future a little bit as well.
It was a many-month process. And it was, you know, it was a true collaboration. It was, you know, ideas from here, ideas from there. I worked with animation a lot because it had to look good on all the tunes that were used, and the tunes have different colors in their tune skin. So like Lola's very peachy, Bugs is very gray, but what kind of gray do they want to use? Porky's pinky, Gossamer's red. So whatever color we picked for LeBron, it also had to look good when all the tunes put it on for Toon Squad. And then it also couldn't have green. We want to incorporate a bit of Warner Brothers into it. And just a sense of 2021 basketball.
It's really a super fun opportunity, and it's all about, like for me, it's all about the fun, you know, and then I know I can do the work. I just always want to make sure it's super fun, because if it's not, then it doesn't really make sense doing it.
I don't think pressure. I think the challenge was to create as great a sonic experience for people as the first time around. Those songs on the first soundtrack are so memorable. People love them. People talk about them all the time. And so we wanted to create that same moment. We wanted people to leave the viewing experience saying, man, I remember this song, I remember that song. And I think we've done that. I think we've achieved something really memorable that people will be talking about for a long time.
I think now is the right time to reintroduce Space Jam because we landed on the story that's really amazing. And as everyone knows, when you're making a movie or TV or anything, the story is what really matters. And we worked and iterated on the story for a long time. and landed in a place on a story that I truly believe LeBron as an actor, as a basketball player, as a human, as a father, as a son, is uniquely positioned to be the center of this story more than anyone else in the world. And I really believe when audiences see the movie, the story will resonate with them in a major way. There's big set pieces, there's lots of fantastic things and fantastical things that happen in the movie, but at the heart, the story is what matters, and we landed on the right time. And I think this time in the world that we're living in, this story will resonate with people even more.
You know, all the films that I've ever done, and I think some of the greatest movies have a lot of heart and a lot of humor. Now, you know, with the Looney Tunes, you're gonna get both, you know. Mostly it's humor, you know, in the physical or the one-line jokes or what have you. But we're trying to bring a lot of that to the other characters as well. And, you know, it's a great combination when you have relatable characters that you can see yourself as, and they can deliver the heart and humor that Space Jam delivers. And those are the kind of movies that I'm attracted to and that I tend to want to make. And no matter what kind of genre they are, having heart and humor is something that people can be drawn in by.
I love LeBron. He's the tallest friend I have. No, he's great. I mean, his body is a bit like sculpture, so you can't even approach it in just a sort of off the rack sort of way. And even things as we do fittings, like it'll fit on, say, a photo double, but it won't fit him the same way. So it's very customized, but always happy, smile on his face, very professional, and fun to work with.
It's been great. We have basically using, as you were saying, the Warner Brothers basically intellectual property. So if it's anything from like, you know, cartoons, live action, you know, any animation, whatever it is, we're sort of focusing on the villains. So half of the crowd is made up of that, and the other half of the crowd are people who were just brought, you know, swept in supposedly by you know, our algae character. But the big part of them that are the villains basically have to go through an extensive hair and makeup wardrobe to get to be the Joker, to be, you know, whoever they may, you know, be in the villain world, and the DC comic world. And it's fun, and the people who are benefiting beyond us, we benefit the most, but the second most is the tour, because the lot's just full of people walking around in you know, DC villain thing. It's one after the other, and you might see, you know, more than one of the same person, like this Joker and that Joker from different movies, and like I said, even from the animated Joker. So it's kind of fun in that way, and it's fun for us because, you know, it's a movie where you're, in fact, instead of just people as people, we have all these characters, and we have hundreds of them. So that's fun.
I think audiences are going to really be surprised and delighted and have a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of places that this movie goes. And I think if the, you know, ultimately, you know, 2 years of being able to play with all the pieces, we're able to shape a narrative that's really about a kid wanting to be seen and wanting to belong, and what he goes through, and, you know, comes out of the other side. It'll be a classic hero's journey story, and, you know, I think that's what people connect to. You know, it has a lot of heart. Like I said, the CJ is great, and he's able to carry that storyline through, and there's a lot of, you know, empathy that we have with them, and I think it's going to be visually stunning. I imagine it all looks like 360 degrees of green screen to me, but I imagine with the pre-visuals that I've seen that the stuff is going to be very spectacular, the world they're building out. I think the concept is really interesting. Story-wise, the good bad guy and two really good guys. And I think the basketball is going to be sick. You know, just getting to be up close and watch LeBron actually play, and that's my, you know, that's personally for me, I'm like, you guys should enjoy that. But it was great to be on the set and see that, you know. But I think that when all those elements come together, it's gonna be, I mean, come on, there's a rap battle, there's a dance video, there's family, there's basketball, there's all the Warner Brothers IP, there's this spectacular world to behold, and inside of that there's real characters that are really, you know, hitting real human and emotional beats. I think it'll be pretty fun.
No, absolutely. I mean, you just said it best. I mean, it's an honor for me to be a part of the Space Jam, world, as we see it. And, for kids, when I was growing up, be able to see Space Jam 1, and now for me to be able to reintroduce it to kids now today, and show them how unbelievable the Looney Tunes are, and how great our sport of basketball is as well. But there's some things that's going to happen along this movie that a lot of people will catch a lot of people off guard, and that's the excitement behind it.
I think we felt the spirit of LeBron, around us because he is such a big fan of music. And so I think just his presence, not just as an athlete, but as a connoisseur of great music and great sounds, I think we had that in our mind, that we wanted to give him the same experience because he loves music. And he's got great taste in music, so we wanted to sort of match his taste in music.
It's always good, especially these days, to see a Black family being successful, to see a Black family unified, and to see them loving each other, and to see them being a tight unit. And that's definitely what we are. We're very unique. But we have fun together, we laugh together, we play together. But then there's also this sort of standard of excellence that we all have that is being driven by LeBron.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. It was really great because a lot of artists right now grew up with Space Jam, the first movie, and have a real connection to it and emotionally connected to it. But of course, we were able to tune into more current sounds and fresh artists that are really popular now, and but by still giving a nod to the classic first one, and incorporating some of those elements into it as well. So it was just fun to kind of have people who grew up in it get to be a part of it too. And so now that those artists are so excited to be a part of this new version.
Why I am grateful to be a part of this project and very happy to be on this show. But one of the main ones is being able to work with Malcolm Lee. I had never met him before, and when I first started working with him, I realized what a great collaborator he was, and just what a nice person. So that process has been a lot of fun for me, and really one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, I definitely was a fan of the original Space Jam. My memory of it was, going to see it, listening to the soundtrack, getting it on VHS and watching it over and over. I was a kid that, was at that age for the real peak of Looney Tunes, like the early mid '90s, and where it was cool to, everybody had their favorite Looney Tune character. You would wear Looney Tunes on your clothes, and I was also still hooping at that time, back in Oakland. So the film kind of combined, quite a few things that had, a lot of value for us coming up. So it was a film that we loved, and that soundtrack was just so great that, when you weren't watching the movie, you were listening to the song,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's probably a bit more pressure on the music supervisors needing to pick songs. I feel like there's so many songs from the original that were like so iconic, and like I still remember to this day. I remember watching the first one when I got the gig, and like just remembering how every one of those songs really held a special place in my heart when I was a kid. And with the score, I think that again the original score was so iconic and such a huge lift to the entire film. I really felt a lot of pressure with that, but for me, I guess I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself with anything, so I didn't really feel that different.
Is not a biographical film, but yet it is inspired by LeBron's life in a lot of ways. 25 years ago, when you would watch your favorite NBA superstar, you were usually watching them on the court, and that was plenty right there. But nowadays, things are different, because you may be a fan of LeBron James and you may not even really watch him on the court. You might be preferring to watch him do a dance on TikTok with his family, or guess what he's going to be eating on a Tuesday? You know, we all know it's Taco Tuesday. And, you know, we wanted to service this film and do justice to LeBron and his life and his legacy and his fans, so we had to find a whole new approach for this one. And that approach, again, was LeBron's own life.
The legacy of the original will always be in place, but this is truly a new film, a new story, a new idea. The tunes are obviously still a big part of the movie, but the tunes are in a different place than they were when that movie was made. LeBron's different than Michael Jordan. The story is completely different. There'll still be a big basketball game, of course, too. That's the only way we're honoring the first one, but this is a new movie, a new take, a new story, and I think this is a story that will resonate with audience as much as the first one did, if not more. But the first one, it was what it was, and we're leaving it as it was. We didn't want to mess with the legacy of that film because it has a fantastic legacy. So we want them to do a new take on the story, and we have different characters. The tunes are, Bugs is still Bugs and Daffy's still Daffy, but they're in a different place. And we have LeBron, who's a different human being in a different place in his life than Michael Jordan was.
Yeah, I think that LeBron is the perfect choice for, you know, for reintroducing kids of this generation to Space Jam, just because of his value, you know, as an entertainer, as an athlete, you know, and he has an endearing quality to him that a lot of athletes of his caliber just don't have. You know, he's active on social media, you know what I mean, and everybody, everybody respects what he's done on the basketball court over his career. When you look at the guy outside of that, it just means so much more.
Yes, definitely some pressure to hold up to the first soundtrack since it was so massive. And I think that's, you know, part of why it's really exciting to work on this project, because there's such a high expectation for the music, and because people know Space Jam as a classic soundtrack, maybe even better than they know the film itself. And so, you know, a lot of people are excited to be a part of doing that again. And so we you know, put a lot of effort into making songs that can stand the test of time and can kind of have the same scope and you know, size and impression that the first soundtrack did. A lot to live up to, though.
I think maybe. I think, you know, as far as I understand, which we understand is going to be a lot of things happening in post-production, but he is the algorithm that controls the Warner Brothers intellectual property, and he has the ability to decide who sees what and what sort of gets pushed to the forefront. And he is someone who seems to me very similar to Dustin Hoffman's character in Wag the Dog, where he's like, why doesn't anyone pay attention to me? You know, I put on this pageant, this amazing show, I'm doing all the work, and everybody that I'm putting in front gets all of the credit, and everybody else gets all the shine, and when is it my turn to be in the sun? So, you know, he's a bit of a narcissist, and I think he's pretty insecure and kind of egomaniacal, which is a great, fun thing to play.
I did not find Space Jam. Space Jam found me. And that's the truth, because I have not done movies with animation and green screen and, you know, visual effects and motion capture characters. It's in a completely different world for me. I'm used to dealing with actors and faces and, you know, interactions and two shots and in ensembles for sure, but nothing like this. So it's incredibly complex, but they have assembled such a tremendous team. We've got the best, you know, out of the visual effects out of ILM, who are there to, like, you know, guide me along. We've got great, you know, animators that, you know, are there to say, well, you know, like, okay, you got to frame the shot like this and whatnot. So it's and then of course, you know, at every, you know, take that we do, then, like, you know, we've got to do our whole visual effects pass, and so it's an education. I'm learning on the job.
I think, well, I mean, there's a couple twists and things that happen along the movie that I won't really talk about, but I think it has a lot to do with getting the Looney Tunes back where they belong. You know, that's one. And also it's a thing called parenthood in our world. that goes on between myself and my son. And the ups and downs and the ins and outs of trying to balance being a parent, but also being a listener at the same time, and understanding that even though you as the parent feel like you always have the right answer, sometimes you need to just kind of listen before you miss out on the gifts that your kids may have. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with the movie. Obviously, you know, all the great Looney Tune characters and so many other different things that goes on with the movie, but the parenthood part of it is going to be something that I am looking forward to.
So in this process, Nike was a great supporter for us. They helped provide us with a lot of the shoes and clothes and tights and underpinnings. You don't often come across 15s, 16s, 17s, 18s sneakers just at the store, even at Nike Town. So they were able to do those things for us. And Nike also was able to give us a polish on the uniform. So I worked with the filmmakers. We came up with our designs and our colors. We ran it through animation. We ran it through visual effects. And then we had Nike put the final polish on it. And then they would send it back to us. And then we would say, hey, do we want to add this part that they thought, you know, they would give us options and say, what can we take from this to make our movie the best?
This project is the potential to introduce a whole new generation of kids to the Looney Tunes, you know, which is, and these are characters that are very special to me, and I look forward to kind of sharing this new look at them to this new audience. You know, I want to show my daughter why I grew up loving the Looney Tunes, you know.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting thing for the animation department here. That's one of the things that they're, you know, on top of. And I have to say, the great part about it is that they have been a source of tremendous amount of information and history of the Looney Tunes, but they've also been great about when we want to take it a little bit different way, or where they're not, you know, it's not religiously like you have to follow this path, and they're very interested in, you know, reintroducing them in a new way that people will enjoy, and, you know, making that part of their, you know, intellectual property, which is all their animated characters, and there's lots of them. You know, make them part of, you know, more current.
I love LeBron, okay? I always did. You know, I've been a huge fan of, you know, what he stands for, of his you know, contributions to his community, and then just goodness, how excellent he is at what he does, and just as a basketball player, he's a very upstanding person all around. So I had so much respect for him coming into this already.
Yeah, I remember thinking of, you know, those songs or those chants and those like beats that we hear whenever we're in an arena, and wanting to find a way to create pieces of score during the game that felt similar to that feeling, or felt like something we could like stomp our feet to or chant to that wasn't one of those pieces. I think that was kind of one of the biggest things I took from actual NBA games.
I'm really excited about a song with Kirk Franklin and Little Baby called We Win. And I'm excited about that because I don't think people will be expecting the father of contemporary gospel to be on a track with arguably one of the biggest hip-hop stars in the game right now. It's a song called We Win. It came together really organically, and so I'm excited about that. We've got the Jonas Brothers, a song called Mercy that I'm really excited about, and also Big Frida, a very, very cool track to your earlier question about us having in mind the Looney Tunes. She's got a song called Going Looney, which is fun, it's upbeat, it's crazy, and it's Big Frida, who's the queen of bounce, doing a Big Frida thing for the Looney Tunes.
It's amazing, and I think it's waited long enough, but just enough time where this movie is going to take it to a different level of animation, of acting, of the experience for the viewer, and you know, what better, you know, movie to be in if you love basketball and to watch.
I mean, I think that's going to be the greatest thing about the whole movie is how many different effects that we have throughout the whole movie. Like you just said, the visual effects to the live action to the 2D and everything, that the animation, everything is gonna be live action here, there's gonna be animation here, there's gonna be 2D here, there's gonna be so much going on in the movie, and I think it's gonna just continue to keep the audience and the kids and the families off balance and make them want to see more and more from each scene, from one scene to the next.
I think watching LeBron step into the role and really embrace this and take it on is just further proof that I've known for a long time, is that it's really in him to be honestly a movie star. He is a natural in front of the camera, but also his brain is like a computer. I mean, he can really understand and compute things at a level that I've never seen anyone else in my life. He can learn something on Monday and apply it on Tuesday, where even the smartest people, it takes them months to apply something. They can learn it fast. Even myself, I believe I can learn very fast, but it takes me a long time to apply. He can learn and apply on the fly, on the go, and that skill that he possesses is really showing in making this movie. It's really on display every day as he's on set, working with actors and co-stars who are not there. We're gonna be animated later. We're gonna be put in as CGI later. But he's really embraced it and he's loving it, and I think he shows up to work every day treating this the same way he treats his day job of being an NBA basketball player.
Well, I think he's the only thing. I think of him as a person because, you know, I kind of have to because I'm playing him. But I think he's a thing. You know, he is an amalgamation of ones and zeros, of yeses and nos that are, you know, trying to figure out a way to get in the spotlight. And it's interesting. It's like if were he to be able to do that, it's like Warner Brothers would shut it down. So it's a very, you know, he hasn't really thought it all the way through to the end. You know, as soon as it doesn't serve the higher purpose, what Warner Brothers wants, he'd be gone. So I think he keeps that sort of at bay, and he's just trying to challenge who he thinks to be the greatest human being out there in the world. And if he takes him down, then how could they not adore him?
It is a great opportunity to reintroduce the Looney Tunes to this generation. Again, I enjoyed them quite a bit as a kid. I remember all the episodes, you know, pretty fondly. You know, if I were to play a few right now, I'd probably say, "Oh yeah, I remember this." So I'm glad we're doing the classic characters. You know, even when I remember when they started to deviate, you know, back in the 20th century. That, you know, from, you know, that it just felt like, oh, that doesn't feel like the Bugs that I knew, or the Daffy that I knew, or the Elmer Fudd that I knew. So, you know, and they're immersed in popular culture. We probably say things now that, you know, nowadays that are just part of our, you know, everyday lexicon that came from the Looney Tunes. So to reintroduce them to this generation, I think is fantastic.
I enjoyed working on this project because I like being a part of pop culture. I like knowing that this is going to be something that people will remember in the same way that they remembered Space Jam, the first one. As I was shopping this film, I still was running across t-shirts and different things from the original Space Jam. And so I've met collectors, I've met people who just like start almost laughing hysterically and like crying, like, wait, there's another one? I cannot wait. So I'm very excited that when this opens, to see a flood of everything we've worked on for the past 3 or 4 months come to light.
To have the opportunity to be in a legacy project like this, and something that I would genuinely look back on and be excited about, especially for my kids to see, that's what drew me in.
I think it's, you know, the idea that you are tying in, you know, a basketball, and actually at its sort of highest level when you have LeBron, so you have an iconic basketball player in it, so that's going to draw a certain crowd. And, you know, there is an expectation that the basketball will be fun to watch, you know, and it will be. So that's always a great thing. And then the whole animated world of people who love animated movies, you've got, you know, that kind of going for you. And we actually, unlike the first one, I think the story here, they really went out of their way to try to make it a more touching story, and it's a real story, and it ties in with LeBron's own life. So it's got a lot of elements to it that'll, I think you can like it on a lot of different levels.
Well, for our generation, of course, it's super meaningful because for them to include female athletes in this film, it means that we're evolving. But I also think it's kind of interesting too for the young players or the young people that are into basketball sports that didn't watch the original. Now they're only going to know a Space Jam that has women athletes in it. So I find that also kind of turning the dial in a different way.
Working with LeBron James on set was kind of amazing because, we all know LeBron James as the superstar athlete who was constantly training, pushing himself, pushing the human body to go much further than it ever could. But I don't think we've ever seen LeBron James like this.
Yeah. So our film Space Jam is about LeBron James, the basketball player, but not so much the basketball player, and even more so LeBron James, the family man. And we'll be kind of following his relationship with his family, but really focusing on his son, Dom, who's his middle son, and is a little more interested in video game design than he is in basketball, which is his dad's career and kind of makes his whole life.
I think we wanted to have, while we are using like a lot of modern sounds, hip hop and R&B and pop music, we wanted things that felt, while they felt modern, also felt timeless. And so we weren't just going for the trendiest things that are happening, right now, although some of the trends are definitely incorporated in what we're doing. We wanted to make sure that a lot of the songs had a timeless feel to them, so they could feel like they could be from 20 years ago and also feel fresh in ways that feel modern like today.
The Brow, Anthony Davis, is definitely, to me, the funniest, just because of his great monobrow and what Devin brought to his design. I think is a great kind of caricature of AD. But I also love Arachnica and kind of her charm and her sass and the way she can. She's always kind of smiling, even when she's being kind of the most kind of intimidating. But I think, but I have to say, I think Wet Fire for me is the one that has proven to be a lot of fun to design because he is a walking visual effect. Like everything he does is generated by a simulation, and I think we've had a lot of fun kind of experimenting with how that kind of character works. On the tune side, I have to say one of the characters that I'm the most proud of is Lola. I think the look that Devin arrived at for her and all of the efforts of the team at ILM to create her has created a character that really has a lot of personality.
So I feel like for me, it's doing a bunch of research up front and then trusting your intuition from that point on, and not really looking back after that, or looking back only if you really need to. I think that the beginning of this process for me was a lot of studying like old Looney Tune writing, studying a lot of like different cartoons from that era, studying a lot of hip hop production and figuring out how I wanted to blend those two things. And then once you have a lot of like themes and the palette's established and you have like different sounds you've already created for the score, it's easy to just trust your intuition and pull from what you've already created, so you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time.
I think it's just a reminder, it was a reminder to us as we were choosing music to keep it light, that we want to recreate, even with the narrative behind, even with this very deep story about father and son, we wanted to keep it fun. And we were reminded of that by effects, by characters floating through space, by LeBron going through space, by the serververse, by games between, it's Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny and Porky Pig. And so that helped us to keep the sentiments light and I think the vibe light. So that was pretty easy.
It was a little bit like walking into my childhood, but then also walking into the future of filmmaking at the same time. So it was a little surreal. Because you see these things that you've always known, but then you also have your imagination knowing where these things are gonna go and how they've been modernized. And so you just think, what what is this? This is Space Jam. What? You know, like how am I here? Thank you, Jesus. You know, it's really something.
Well, you know, coming out of 10 years of another universe that was incredibly technical as well, and green screen and motion capture and all of that, I wasn't unfamiliar with it. But each thing has its own different sort of idiosyncratic parts to it and different things that distinguish it. And in this, it was very interesting playing to entities that weren't there and trying to stay mindful of what their personalities are and who they are and what they mean. But ultimately, I think in situations like this, you understand that you're putting yourself into the hands of the special effects team and the post-production team, and that they're going to take the pieces that you give them and the seeds that you give them, and they're going to create something around it that will work. You just want to make sure you're staying in the pocket with what that requires. Your eye lines are right, your postures are right, but so much of that really is determined by people who are behind the monitors going, if you put your hand there, it's in Daffy's head. You know, you have to put your hand here, and you know, you just trust that they've figured it out and they're going to work it out at the end. And hopefully, they've given you the parameters where you can just be free and just perform and not, you know, let them worry about that stuff later.
Yeah, definitely. It was, I mean, working with the NBA and the players within it and the women's basketball also was very exciting for me, because it's not usually, the only time I cross over into that world is usually commercials if I do that. But it's always nice to be able to work with somebody who is the real person, but also they're allowing their personality to be out there on screen. So when we did Diana Taurasi, we did her uniform in the style that she wears it. And that was very important. And her goon is also represented in the style of how she wears her uniform, which is very unique to her. And then when we have the scene of her trying on a suit, you know, we picked a beautiful Tom Ford suit. It had simple lines like what she likes, but has a nice polish to it. And, you know, went into shoes that felt like she was her best self represented for the movie.
Yeah, it's really been a two-way street. I mean, he's been great. He told us exactly what he needed, and I guess we have a full-size, you know, regulation basketball court that we built for him here at Warner's, and a gym that goes with it. And then you always worry, like, you know, you have to spend a little bit of money to get that done, you know. So, and we had to move some of the executives out of their executive parking spots. So I mean, it was a deal, but he uses it every day. He comes in, you know, he's, you know, just in the sense of just being dedicated to what he does. Is that this is what he needed to do to maintain, you know, his basketball regime. So every morning, he's there every morning, and we always hear about it because they play some music while they're there, and they play it a little loudly. So everybody goes, yeah, they're there, and they're, you know, it's, you know, whenever people pull in, because he's already there. Sometimes as early as 5 in the morning. You know, but when they come to work, they can hear the music playing. So he's been able to do that. And then he sort of gave us, these are the parameters, and then he lives by them, like, you know, religiously. So when we're ready for him, you know, this is what it is. And when he says he'll be ready, he's ready. So he's very professional in everything that he does.
So I've been really lucky to work on a number of movies, but I've never worked on a movie like this one. Because usually you're working on a movie, you spend some time coming up with a great story, getting some people together, finding those props. You know, usually there's challenges, even on big budget movies. How are we going to afford this? How are we going to do that? There's always a question of having to limit yourself. Not on Space Jam: A New Legacy. This time, there was no limit. Because oftentimes we'd be having a conversation and you'd be saying, you know, it'd be great if we can have this insanely impossible thing to happen. And then our animation director would say, yeah, no problem, I got you. Because this is a film in which imagination is being celebrated, and it's actually, it was happening every single day on set.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about, for me, as my real day job, you know, being in the NBA, is I get the opportunity to build relationships with a lot of great athletes in my sport, a lot of, you know, WNBA players as well. So to be able to have, you know, Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, Diana Taurasi, Mecca Agumake, Damian Lillard, just to have them a part of this process, it's, like I said, it's humbling for me. Because I know how many people I looked up to when I was a kid, and I used to watch those figures. Like when I was younger, it was like Michael Jordan and Sheryl Swoopes, you know, or Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, and Anthony Penny Hardaway, Deion Sanders, all these great characters, Ken Griffey Jr., Bo Jackson. I used to like, be in all of them, you know, and for me to now to be in a position where I can, you know, reach out and ask these great role models and the great things that they do both on and off the floor to be a part of such a legendary process. It was, thank you guys, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely had to really get into the Looney Tunes sound and figure out how to honor that as much as possible, first and foremost. I think one of the first things I did was try to write some of those merry melodies or like some of those original Looney Tunes themes to see if I could get close to that sound. And I really think that that sound then influenced the rest of the score because it was such a presence whenever you hear that Looney Tunes sound that we wanted to make sure it didn't feel random compared to the rest of the score. So then, you know, figuring out how to make the rest of the score kind of come into that world a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the most ingenious parts of the script. You know, is that, it's very self-aware, and which is cool because it's like it knows it's self-aware with all the Warner Brothers properties that are in there. So we've got the Justice League world that he falls through, Lego and Wizard of Oz and Game of Thrones and Casablanca. And I think that it's a reminder of that this is a studio that's had a very long history of making movies and entertainment, and it's a great callback to all those great pictures and films of back in the day, and franchises back in the day. So, not only do we get does the LeBron fall through all those worlds to get to the Looney Tune world, but those characters from those worlds show up at the basketball game.
In this iteration, we wanted WNBA players because they are stars. They represent the whole of basketball. We wanted to represent all of basketball, not just the NBA, but all of basketball. And I think in doing that, you have to include the NBA and the WNBA. The WNBA now is at a point where it's very recognizable. Their stars are extremely recognizable and mean something to the whole culture of basketball, and we wanted this movie to represent that.
Yeah, that's honestly the coolest part is having the WNBA future Hall of Famers with us. I grew up watching Diana. She's like the LeBron of the WNBA as far as her ability to win championships, gold medals, MVPs. Sue Bird, same with NECA, just being able to watch her at the Pac-10 now, working with her. It's so cool for young women around the world, young girls who see their heroes as who are just talented as us, and there she is. I was just singing my praises, but I rescind all that. She just blew my shot. I was just kidding. Yeah, like I said, it's cool for young girls to see their heroes have an impact, and I thought it was great. They added the WNBA players. I thought that was the best part of the movie, honestly.
Oh, I'm excited. I've already seen the prints of my character, which is amazing. And I think it's also interesting in kind of my first real acting role that I am going to be involved in motion capture as well. So I'm kind of getting the full type of movie experience. But I'm really happy that my character is representative of me as a player and as a person, and I'm really excited about that. Can't wait to.
We really can't wait for people who are fans of just basketball to see this film. We have some of the hottest young players, both from the NBA and the WNBA. From the NBA, we have guys like Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green, Anthony Davis. These guys all make cameos in the film and play key roles in the plot.
I think LeBron, for one, has been in the forefront of that, and for NECA and Asia and Sue and myself to be in this movie and represent really the other half of basketball. It's pretty special, and hopefully down the line it could just continue getting more popular.
I just remember how cool it was. It was like the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan. All of these things that you are infatuated with as a kid. All in one movie, and you're wondering like, how is this stuff happening? You getting sucked into, their world, and from when they spit shine the gym and they turn the gym to a brand new gym and stuff like that. And it's, to the merch. I had Space Jam t-shirts and shoes and all that stuff. So, that's my memories of it.
Yes, well, I love any opportunity that we have in the arts, in this industry specifically, to bridge gaps, right? To bridge generational gaps. And that's basically what's happening here, is that, you know, when those of us that were young at the time of the first Space Jam, when we were there, you know, that was our heart. You know, that was what was close to our heart, were the Looney Tunes.
Gut feeling. Sometimes you just know. And in the case of the end credit, we knew. I mean, it was just one of those moments where we were like, this is it. And yeah, I can't wait for people to see that. I can't wait for people to see the whole film, but I can't wait for people to experience that moment.
I don't think so. I think there's a balance in this movie. There's definitely a lot of comedy in the movie, but there are a lot of stakes. LeBron is there. LeBron is trying to save his son, and his son has kind of been kidnapped, basically, by Al G. And so the stakes are high for LeBron to be able to get his son back, and also to kind of save all the audience that's there for the game that's been kind of sucked into the serververse. So there's definitely a lot of drama in the music, and we bring that as well as the fun moments where, you know, there's comedy in the game with the tunes, and also the moments with LeBron and his sons when they're just kind of hanging out and playing ball at home. And we kind of, you know, play into what would the kids be listening to just hanging out? What would those brothers be listening to? So there's a lot of different ranges of emotion, kind of tones that we are able to play with in the music as part of the story.
Fun, and a part of that was just how wonderful it was to work with the actual players that they're based on. You know, Anthony Davis, NECA, Diana Taurasi, you know, Klay Thompson. They were great. They actually all suited up in mocap suits and allowed us to capture their kind of signature basketball style, right? Everyone has a style, has kind of a way that they play. And you can't animate some of those things, you know, like the way Damian Lillard dribbles, right? It is so kind of powerful and fluid. That's hard to animate, so you really just need to capture it. So that's what we did.
Like I said, the filmmakers seem to be utilizing it properly and utilizing it all the time. And I think now that Malcolm Lee is looking at it going, I kind of want to do this every day. This is going to be great. I'm like, yes, please. I love to keep busy, and I like to keep everybody working, and we get to produce really awesome stuff every day for however long we need to do this for. So, you know, right now it's kind of day to day, but I'm hoping that it goes week to week, and we're just in here every day making tons of cool characters, iconic characters from the Warner Brother archives, and that when the people go and see the movie, they're gonna look at it and go, that looks, wow, how'd they get this character? How'd they get that character? Oh my goodness, there's this, you know, there's Pennywise over there in the corner, and over there are a bunch of White Walker zombies. So it's pretty thrilling.
Probably Pepe Le Pew, because no one wants to go near that man. So if I'm by him, I'm gonna get an open shot. That's how bad he smells. So I remember that from the first one too.
Working on Space Jam compared to other movies was a pretty amazing experience. Coming into a movie that already has a lot of excitement around the music and the soundtrack, it's not something that usually happens. And so even having worked on big movies before, this was a special one because the artists are so excited to be a part of it, because there's just, you know, everybody knows that we're gonna make, you know, put a lot of effort into making an amazing soundtrack and make the music a really integral part of the movie. So there's a lot of music in the movie. The songs play a really big role in helping to tell the story and support the emotion of what's going on. And so it was definitely, you know, a challenging experience to like try to live up to the expectations, but it was also really fun and rewarding now that we've gotten through that, and we can kind of look at the body of work that we created, and, you know, really excited for people to get to see it and hear it out in the world.
Yeah, I think it was amazing. You know, this film, obviously, as I said earlier, takes place in the Warner Brothers server, so you get to see all of the IP within Warner Brothers and the history of the company lives on this server. So if you think about that, there's a server on the lot that holds all the IP, Casablanca, Game of Thrones, the Looney Tunes, the DC world, and endless, right? And in the film, when LeBron first enters the server, he has to go through all of these worlds because the tunes are all over the place and he's trying to put them back together and he doesn't know where he's at. So he's trying to find where's his son. So going through and seeing LeBron in the world of Casablanca and in the world of Game of Thrones was just incredible. It was another area for his full range of acting to be on display. So it was amazing to see.
I mean, really, filmmaking as a whole is about communication and working together and being collaborative. So, and this is a really good example of it because there's almost every department is involved in this giant machine to get everybody on set photographed, and and it looks like yesterday we shot so much footage. It was really, really spectacular and felt really rewarding. But yeah, it's a giant combination of everything, and a lot of people always ask me like, oh, are you nervous about VFX taking over your job? No, because we work hand in hand with VFX. Like, we learned early on that if we're going to survive as a practical makeup effects company, we have to join this ride or what have you. So we joined whatever VFX needed. I'm like, what do you guys need from us? And they do need stuff from us, and we need stuff from them. There's things we can't do, there's things they can't do, and it really makes it a better magic trick.
From an athlete's perspective, I truly believe that this is going to obviously contribute not just to what sports means today. The sports kind of overreaches outside of courts and fields now, and it's so important for players and aspirers to see the dynamics of being a professional and obviously your favorite players in different ways. And I think that also kind of contributes to the entertainment aspect in film. We watch what we know, and we're introduced to things that we don't know on film. And so to have the representation of women out here, I think is really, really important, especially as it pertains to the realm of sports. Especially in the climate that we're in right now. I think it's really like the time of the woman, and we're really happy to be here to represent strong women in the film.
And it's also a great moment for representation in sports films because we have some really amazing WNBA players as well. We have Nneka Ogwumike, we have Diana Taurasi, we have Sue Bird making an appearance in the film, and a host of other ones. So it's really, really exciting, for us to be able to work on this film and to be able to have time from these great athletes, and the most exciting thing is to be able to show this to young athletes who'll be in the crowd with their parents, watching the film.
So, in Space Jam: A New Legacy, LeBron James and Bugs Bunny have to put together the greatest basketball team to help him win the most important basketball game of his life. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a heist film. We gotta travel to all these crazy places and convince people to join us on this insane adventure. And the way we kind of had to come up with these different Warner Brothers universes was kind of very similar. Because we had to think to ourselves, okay, well, who do we need on this team and where can we get it from? And to be honest, we wanted to do justice to the films and the filmmakers and the film lovers of these properties.
LeBron has just done so much in his basketball career. At an early age, he had a hefty responsibility. And who's dealt better with it? Who's done more with it? I admire him in so many ways on the court, but off the court, the energy and the behavior. Oh, God.
Oh, is that right?
The energy he puts into being a good human being sometimes is admirable, and I just have so much respect for him. And we've been friends since we were on the Olympic team as babies. So it's just pretty incredible. 15 years later to be here.
He's great. We couldn't be in better hands, and it's great. He has a terrific sense with comedy. So our particular script is not like broad comedy, but it has a lot of comedic elements to it. And then of course when we get to it'll be much more broad when we get to the actual animated part. But our live action isn't. But he has a real gift for the comedy of it and brings it out all the time. And he came in sort of late to all of it, so it was difficult for him to get up to speed, but he's been just terrific, and he accommodates what we need, and we try to reciprocate and give him everything he wants, because once we give it to him, he just goes with it. He's been a great partner in this.
I gotta say, I think this is gonna be one of the coolest movies people are ever gonna see. It's gonna be great sports in it, a great father-son story, a great family story, something that's gonna be heartfelt, fun, a lot of action, a lot of like, things they haven't seen on a basketball court or in a Looney Tunes movie. It's gonna be a little bit of everything that will like combine sports and action and heart and humor.
Effects supervisor on Space Jam: A New Legacy, and I am so excited to be a part of this film. I feel like it's exactly the kind of movie that we need right now. It's about family, it's about friendship, and it has a great central message that everyone is unique. And in any given moment, the best thing that you can do is be yourself. You be you, LeBron says in this movie. And that is a theme that really resonates with me.
He's great. We couldn't be in better hands, and it's great. He has a terrific sense with comedy. So our particular script is not like broad comedy, but it has a lot of comedic elements to it. And then of course when we get to it'll be much more broad when we get to the actual animated part. But our live action isn't. But he has a real gift for the comedy of it and brings it out all the time. And he came in sort of late to all of it, so it was difficult for him to get up to speed. But he's been just terrific, and he accommodates what we need, and we try to reciprocate and give him everything he wants, because once we give it to him, he just goes with it. He's been a great partner in this.
100%. We are led by our sensibilities, and I just feel really fortunate to be able to work on a project like this with a music supervisor whose sensibilities are pretty closely aligned with mine, and a music team that's been very supportive of us, pushing the envelope and digging into these tunes and finding a sonic palette for this film.
I can't wait for people to see this film. I think they're gonna have their minds blown. I think that there is so much visual candy that it's gonna take multiple viewings before you see the complexity of what feels like could be a simple father-son story that visually goes deep. And I'm expecting Reddit to be ready.
Yeah, so I'd say from the Looney Tunes sound, it's mostly like any of the weird, fun, kind of like quirky sounds and percussion instruments and things like that. It's like, a lot of that percussion sound is a lot of like toys actually. So using a lot of those sounds in this score, I think is kind of the biggest way we infuse the score with the Looney Tunes sound.
No, it is. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Like I said, growing up on Space Jam, the original, and getting to be a part of the second one, with a once-in-a-generation type of player like LeBron, filling Michael Jordan's shoes, it's an honor to be a part of it. And, my son is gonna see this movie, and he's gonna, my dad was in Space Jam too, so hopefully it'll have the same impact on him and other kids that it had on me and my brother and my cousins.
Absolutely. Heart, humor, hard work, identity, family, absolutely. I think it's bringing all those things together in a way that will, delight you and also stay with you, hopefully forever.
I gotta say, I think this is gonna be one of the coolest movies people are ever gonna see. It's gonna be great sports in it, a great father-son story, a great family story, something that's gonna be heartfelt, fun, a lot of action, a lot of things they haven't seen on a basketball court or in a Looney Tunes movie. It's gonna be a little bit of everything that will combine sports and action and heart and humor.
Just seeing how he took to all this was really, really amazing. And he's acting. I mean, he's really tapping into his emotions. He understands who the character is. Yes, it's based loosely on him, but he's really committed to it, and he's bringing everything to the role, and he's never slacking off. He's never phoning it in. He's not just faking his way through it. He's really trying to find the truth of it, and he was really the sort of the big surprise of the whole thing for me. And off camera, he's lovely. He's great and really generous and gregarious and a team player, and down to make the whole thing work. So and he didn't have to be. I kept saying that to him. I'm like, you don't have to be as you are right now. You're sitting in the catbird seat, and you could be a very different dude right now, and everyone would just have to kind of go, oh, whatever. but he never for a moment showed that side. He's just, down to make the best out of it, and I think he could have a long career in this.
I think it has a huge mass appeal for two reasons. One, it attracts the families all across the board. From a kid could be 2 years old to the grandma that's watching the kid that's in her 60s or 70s can all watch the Looney Tunes and watch cartoons and feel joy. And then basketball. Basketball is the greatest sport in my opinion in the world, and we are all over the world. You look at the NBA and the WNBA, you have people not only from America, but from Asia, from Europe, all over the continents, Australia, everywhere. You can name it. And so that's how I was able to tap into so many different households, because the game of basketball just resonates with everyone in the world. And then when you add cartoons and laughter and things of that nature, everyone, it's all about smiling, being happy, and laughing. I think those are the ingredients to success.